Welcome to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. It's 2 in the morning on the East Coast of the United States. I have no idea what time it is down and under, but it is time for Shiny Side Out with Dave and Mecky. So I hope you have your tinfoil hat all made and cinched down tight over your ears. So take it away, Dave and Mecky.
Welcome to Shiny Side Out with Dave.
And Mecky.
Live from the Sydney studios in Australia, except I'm not in the Sydney studios today. I'm in beautiful Byron Bay. If you didn't know, Revolution Radio has a chat room, and we're in there right now. And you can go there too. Be going, that's almost English, be going to freedomslips.com. You can chat and listen from there. Check out our website, shinysideout.net, for more info, and also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Also, our blogs. We've got some blogs going on as well. There are heaps of ways to listen to the station, by the way. If you didn't know this, if you're in Kentucky, you'd be lucky enough to be able to listen to On FM, 101.3 FM. If you're anywhere else in the entire planet, probably even on the ISS, you could do the same thing. They got the internet, by the way, Mackie.
Is that right?
They do, absolutely. They do. They got the internet. They got everybody's internet up there, I'll tell you that much. Revolution Radio, you can get an app, Revolution Radio app, TalkStream Live, TuneIn.com, Radio Tuner, or as Americans would say, Radio Tuna, and our very own Shiny Side Out app. But if you don't like all that app stuff, and maybe you're across FM, maybe way too much, maybe you just like to have an old-fashioned looking radio on the table, why don't you get a Grace tabletop digital radio, or you can drive around in your GM motor vehicle with a receiver-enabled radio. Each one of those things that we mentioned that aren't FM are revolutions in radio. If you want, as Hawk said, a CD of your last year's favorite shows, you can just follow the links on the website, and it's pretty cool. Maybe you missed them. I like that bit that the Hawk said. Maybe if you missed you can't catch them all. You've got commitments. It's all good. You can still listen to them all. It's pretty fun. If you're in the US, you can call in on 347-688-2902. And Mecky, I don't have to look at that number anymore. Or via Skype, just at Freedom Screen. And do you know what, Mecky? I think Solaris had one of the best shows ever.
I liked it.
Ever. Do you know it tied into our last two shows?
Yes, I know.
Which is really cool.
Very smooth.
And very smooth. And yet again, it was awesome. And if you did miss it, if you catch your Shiny Side Out show and you've missed out on the previous show, guess what? Go to the archives, look up Solaris' times. You're going to love it. She's got a great platform. And this, Mecky, by the way, she had John Strom on. I can't believe it.
John Storm, I think.
Is it? Oh, I you know what? It's not my dyslexia.
No.
So it is John Storm, double M.
Double M, John Storm. And if you Google the gentleman, which I have, in fact, of course, done, a very interesting looking fella. He seems to like blades, as I do, and he seems to have a collection of them. So definitely worthwhile listening to what he has to say. If you missed it, because you might be listening to this on YouTube, so go and find Solaris' show, like Dave said.
Yep. But guess what, Mecky? This is show 149.
940 and 100. I know. 140. That means that we're very close to being on the air for 3 years. 3 years. That's 1,000 days. What? That's just crazy. That's what's that? That's 100 and 300. It's about 320 hours of programming, I think.
Wow.
Which is pretty.
We haven't only scratched the surface.
I know, that's true enough. And people, again, people always ask, and I'm sure they ask you the same thing. Haven't you got enough, already, haven't you done enough shows? Aren't you running out of stuff to talk about, to look at? Yeah, no, not really.
No.
There's a lot of things we haven't even touched upon yet, which form part of the bigger picture, of course. And we are in the business of bringing you guys the bigger picture And believe it or not, the mind control cycle that we have been talking about, including subliminal messaging, advertising, marketing, and all that wonderful stuff, which now is very much dominated, I think, and I'm sure I'm going to be backed up on this by our guest and by Dave, is in fact computer dominated. AIs and such seem to be running a lot of these initiatives now and control programs. But before we do that, very quickly, very quickly, Dave and I undertook an expedition.
Field research.
Yeah, the second one now, under the very gracious guidance of another Dave.
Yes.
So that was awesome. And Scott and Lydia were there as well. So thank you very much, guys, for coming along and sharing that experience with us. It was the Gosford Glyphs. But Dave, tell us a bit more about that.
Well, not very far off what seems like just a normal road in the bush is a sandstone outcrop. And Mekhi, like, seriously, you wouldn't, if you didn't know it was there, you'd never see it, right?
No, you wouldn't find it. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, there's no clue that it's even there. And look, the locals had found it a long time ago, and I was lucky enough to run into, who's now my friend, and he said, "Oh, the glyphs, so I'll take you along." So off we go, and you've got to climb through a cave. There's there's a basically rocky outcrop, and it sheds some stones. Just
on that, now I'm not a small guy. My brother, who was also there, is not a small guy. It was not easy to get through there.
Yeah, it's a tight squeeze. Plus, I was able to squeeze down into the tomb, the suspected tomb, which is, I think, from what I understand, may very well have tried to be covered up by the local council. Or parks, I don't know who, but someone had uncovered it, and so down I go with a torch, and I took some photos down there, and everything's amazingly flat cut edges, and it does look like it's been manufactured, I have to say. That's a personal experience. But Mekhi, the glyphs themselves are pretty interesting, weren't they?
Yeah, look, they were. The glyphs are on either side of sort of a cave corridor that leads to this particular, let's call it the tomb. Yeah. Now, as you walk up it, one side is protected on a bit of a rocky overhang, and those seem to be the older glyphs. These seem to be the glyphs that are actually authentic. Because there's some controversy around the authenticity of these particular rock carvings. Some of the glyphs, though, a bit further down, again, still part of the same wall, are a little less Egyptian. If you understand what I'm saying, they don't seem to be hieroglyphs. They seem to be ideograms. There might be some alchemical or even astrological symbols in there. There's a Celtic cross. There are a number of other symbols, including a phallic symbol, which seems to be very, which seems to be very modern. And then on the other side of this cave corridor, there are carvings which are very high up. Now I'm a 6 foot something guy, and I couldn't carve that unless you
couldn't even reach the top.
I could not, and I would have to stand on someone's shoulders to do so. So, and it's not even ground. This is all very difficult to find a footing on, right? So you would have to put up some scaffolding to carve that high, which is odd because the opposing side is much more easily accessible, and that wasn't carved upon, but rather the side that was harder to get to. Now, so what we think, Dave and I, and I think if you went there, you might have a similar opinion. We think that some of the glyphs are authentic and quite old, and I'll tell you why I think that in a second. And we also believe that other things have been added, post the fact, maybe even in modern colonial times.
Yes, indeed.
Remember the warning? Like, talk about the warning and the arrow.
Yes. Okay, so traditional owners of the land, the Australian native Aboriginals, used to signify areas, either burials or places of significance where they would do this kind of carving. And Mekhi and I have been to another one of those, and they use basically it's an etched circle and an arrow, and they'll point in a particular direction and that's the direction of significance, and that's a warning.
Yep.
And I remember, because everything's sacred, these, for the most part, sacred sites, and you don't want to just stumble into a sacred site by accident. So these warnings have been placed there for you so that you have, not just respect when you get there, but you have an understanding of what the significance is. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that Meki and I found was this was also not littered, but it had other diagrams. The one that we couldn't find was the sun. We couldn't find the sun image. And we also found some vandalism there as well, which was a disappointment. But we did find the arrow, and the arrow did point towards the tomb, or that's with a burial site, for instance, which is it does work along the same theme of all the other sites. So, I don't think that wasn't quite as well known, probably during the period in which some of those ones were faked. But from what we can understand, the ones that look like they're the oldest with the greatest patina over the sandstone, because there's a lot of fresh carvings there.
Yeah, that's right.
The ones we were focusing on weren't all of those ones. These were the old ones, and they were done with old tools, not these nice thin lines and everything that have looked like they've been made with metal tools. So to all of those people who have made, once this is on YouTube and we do the Gosford glyphs, titles in there, people are going to be looking at it. You know what? To be honest, I'm going to say, good luck. That didn't fool us in the slightest.
Yeah. The thing is,
the original glyphs tell a story, Mickey. Let me.
Yeah. No. Go. Yeah.
Okay. It tells a story of an Egyptian prince and his brother, I think it is, and they sailed into the Gosford waterway after being hit by a storm or something like that, and were off track, and they found their way back to the mainland, and they entered into the waterway, and after getting out of their vessel, they walked up the hill. One of them was bitten by a snake, and I have to tell you, that's not an uncommon thing. I've had death adders, brown snake, a king brown, and red belly black snakes. And there's also a diamond python that was in my neighbor's yard.
In case you don't know, those will kill you guys. They will kill you dead.
So those snakes are the deadly snakes, and they're all there. They're all in the same valley area that we were in, where the glyphs are found. And so it's actually highly likely that someone would be bitten by a snake there if you didn't know what you were doing. And the story then says that they buried the brother or the prince. I don't know. I can't remember which one. And there's the story. Like, they came from Egypt, and it's all in hieroglyph. And that the story looks okay. The glyphs look okay. We're going to have a greater look at the density of wording. They're using cartouches for the names. It looks pretty good. It really does. Meki, what's your impression of it overall?
Look, I agree. Now, you have to understand, of course, that these people were very far away from home. They probably didn't have all the sophistication with them that they required. Maybe people died on the journey. Someone died in Australia, was bitten by a snake, and then they looked for a burial chamber or something, that would approximate a burial they're accustomed to. Now, we didn't find a mummy, or we didn't find any bones, nothing like that. We did find a burial chamber, as Dave has said, which is quite worked. Had very smooth inside, ceiling and walls.
Yep.
And the key thing here is to remember that you want to leave a mark. I mean, obviously, this was a person of import to whoever buried him and whoever made the original glyphs. One thing that worries me, though, and I just want to quickly share this with you, it's private land. And there's talk we heard about that this particular piece of land may be sold and developed. And now this site is not under any kind of environmental or any kind of national trust or protection, anything like that, because it's a fake. People say it's a fake. Now, again, we dare you to come in and prove that, but obviously people are not really interested in this aspect of Australian history. It would just turn everything we know about ancient history upside down. Not impossible, though, guys. It's not impossible to travel this far. I mean, humankind has spread across the globe. Well before we had airplane travel, guys. Okay, so the thing is, we need to keep an open mind on these things. Sorry, we have a question from the chat room. Gerber, they are in the Brisbane Waters National Park. Yeah, it is just outside of Gosford. Okay, hang on. Hello, can you hear me now?
Okay, yeah, I'm back again. I'm good.
Okay, good. I've got a call coming in. There we go. Sorry.
Have to get added group call.
There we go. Now I think we pull Dave back in. 1 second, guys.
I'm already back.
Oh, you're back. Fantastic. Good stuff. Now, just as I was saying, though, it's in Brisbane Waters National Park, and it's just a few minutes out of Gosford there, all right, if you want to come off the Pacific Highway. It's for Gerber in the chat room. And yeah, we're worried that this might be developed and destroyed. Mm-hmm. So we took as much recording evidence as we could. If you go up the plateau, there are more carvings. And what we would expect, there are the medicine pools. There are also, the spear sharpening sites, and that's again, right, the warning circles. But what was most telling, again, was the warning circle and the arrow, which is an Aboriginal arrow. We've now got some experience with this, yes, pointing directly at the tomb. Again, if you didn't know it was there, you would have a hard time finding it. So I think it's a worthwhile mystery. It is not impossible for these voyages to have occurred. Don't forget that the Arabs, right, sailed all the way from the Arabian Peninsula down into Indonesia, spread Islam, okay, and even traded with northern Australia, all the way to Papua New Guinea, okay, and again, it's not really that inconceivable, guys. I mean, even the Chinese coming down to Australia. Why do we have such a hard time imagining this? I think it's something. It's time that we accept it and move on. Of course, there's always the the question of prime domain, meaning who owns what, right?
Well, Meki, I was going to throw this out there. Remember that after, what did we do after we went there, right? We went on a field trip to another rock carving place, which I'll tell you wasn't that fantastic, except it did punctuate the story of Biami, the spaceman that came down with his 3 sons, that whole story again. So you can see how that was replicated to another place of significance. Now, it was only maybe 200 meters away from that, I think, that in the end, where this other, site was. And look, I think it's got a lot of merit. If it was somewhere else, down by the water or something, I don't think it would hold as much credibility. I think that it certainly has some, and I don't want to lose it. I think that whoever develops that area is going to, have a lot of resistance on their hands when it comes to, developing that site. I think it should have to be retained in some way, fake or not.
Yeah, well, look, like I said, I think some of the carvings in the rock are modern, others may not be. Okay, that's where we're sitting at the moment, guys. We're not steadfast on a position here, but it certainly seems that all the ones sort of protected a little under the overhang tell a story, and as Dave has said, they're carved correctly, whereas the others, a bit more modern, have images that make absolutely no sense in an Egyptian context. So
that's right.
that was funny. Now, having said that, though, the carvings that we did see on the other side that we mentioned are much more spectacular than what you would find on a tourist drive. It took us probably 2 or 3 hours to get there, right? And this is actually 4-wheel driving, but and that's why hardly anybody ever goes there, I guess. But it's certainly something that we're going to spend a lot more time investigating and taking pictures of and making a video of as well. But it is a fantastic site, and again, we one thing that we need to do, we need to have a much closer look at that funny mountain there, Dave. That's something we definitely have to do.
Yes, Mount Yango he's talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So it looks, just for everyone's record, it does look like an Aztec temple from a distance, and it's symmetrical when you paint a line down the side, down the middle of it, and fold it over onto itself. It's symmetrical. So it looks like a step pyramid, and it's extraordinary. It's probably basalt or something like that. We're not sure any more than that, but topographically, it is still consistent with a step pyramid. So
Yep.
Yeah, we'll see when we get to that one. But yeah, exciting times. It's good to do some field research and get out of the chair, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. Yes, now we can shake our fists impotently at our debunkers. You never go anywhere. No, that's not true. Now,
shake your hand, hold it, boy.
Having said that, let's dive. Unless you've got some news you wish to share, Dave.
There was only one piece of news, and that's to do with QZ8501 or PK-AXC, as we all know it now, the flight number. Something really weird. Now, it's a week since, and they've now said they've seen some fuselage in the shallow water, 30-meter, 100-foot deep water. They found some fuselage. I want to know what seat numbers all of those people came from. The 30 people they say they found floating around in the water, of course, which they didn't see before. No other plane saw it fail, even though it was a plane behind it. No one saw anything. And we still don't have the audio from the aircraft controller, the ground controller. We don't have any audio from that. And not only that, but they say that the pilot took the plane on a near vertical, at only 200 knots, which isn't fast enough, and he hit stall, and it fell down backwards.
Oh.
All right? Which is equivalent to a jet flat spin. Now, what's unusual about that is the plane won't let you. The plane is a fly-by-wire. It's a wish list. You push the yoke, the plane determines whether that's a good move or not, and does what it'll allow you to do within the plane's capabilities. So I have to say, I'm calling this still an unusual mystery. And why aren't there tons and tons of floating debris? You know, and I have to question this next question too, and think about this. Naturally, planes that are made of an aluminium skin tear up and explode pretty much on entry to anything. Yeah. They're weak. They're incapable of withstanding anything more than they're an inflated balloon from the inside. That's pretty much it. Yeah, they harden at the nose. The nose itself is a radar, but the rest of it is aluminium, and it's like an aluminium can. Whereas the composite skin stuff that they're making today, maybe that's just too tough. Maybe it has a really sudden fail point. It's great. It failed. I'm not sure. At the moment, the flight experts are saying how it was bad weather, but the plane experts, the engineers, are saying the guy can't have taken it on such a steep climb. The plane would not have let him. So, what made the plane climb? Was there an alien craft involved? I'm doing a Giorgio Tsoukalos.
Because aliens!
I'm not saying it's aliens, but it was aliens. Right? So maybe he had to do a steep climb or diversion to try and get away from whatever the object was, and he went clung onto the side of it. Maybe the tail broke off. Maybe that's all we'll find. I'm not sure, because out of 120-something people, to only find 30 and you can see a fuselage underwater, that sort of doesn't make any sense.
Well, the water depth, as you pointed out, is very, very shallow.
Mm-hmm.
Right, I think it's about 50 meters, not like 1,000 or 2,000 meters like we have for the Indian Ocean plane that went down there, the Malaysian airline. Or supposedly, I should say. Also, what is strange is that the tracking went completely offline. The black boxes, everything went completely offline. I understand that happening when you're dealing with 2 kilometers of water. I get it. I get it. You got 50 meters of water, not so easily explained. But again, I'm sure there are experts that will tell me I'm completely wrong.
And remember that the pinging devices immediately start pinging upon the contact of salt water because it's a conductor.
Yep.
And they start telling everyone where it is. So it should have been found within 5 hours. It just should have been. But it wasn't.
Yep.
And at the moment, that's still an unsolved mystery right there. Don't know why any of it occurred. And until They're probably never going to play us. I mean, I'm conspiracy hat on, Mackie. Do you mind? Have I got the tinfoil?
What is the show called again?
Oh, yeah, Shiny Side Out. That's right. Yeah, of course. So, warning, it's a tinfoil hat zone. I don't think we're ever going to hear the real truth on this because, we haven't heard the controller's voice. We haven't heard the recording of the guy requesting the altitude change. And yet, here he is. They're saying that he took the plane vertical until it stalled. I mean, a trained pilot? What? They blamed weather. He could have turned left and gone around it. He could have turned right and gone around it.
But Dave, he only had 6,500 hours of flying experience. That's hardly enough to make a sandwich.
In fact, you know what? I heard he only had 6,100 hours flying with their Air Asia, but he had 20,000 in total.
Yeah, but that's again, there you go with that stuff that, the thinking things. Stop, independent thought alarm. What?
Shut up.
Shut up.
Let's use the Chewbacca defense. It doesn't make sense.
It's not a laughable matter by any stretch of the imagination, guys, and we don't mean to make light of it, but things just keep piling on that don't add up on a whole bunch of these plane crashes, And I just want to quickly bring something up that was discussed in the previous show by the guest John Storm and Solaris, which is something I've believed for a long time. You have a target out there, someone you want to get rid of. You don't just get rid of that particular person. That's foolish. It's an assassination at that point, right? Mm-hmm. What you do is you engineer a massive accident, be it a plane crash, a train crash, whatever it might be, or maybe even a mass shooting. Where you, like John said, you pick off the first couple of guys or girls, and these are your actual targets. Everybody else there is collateral damage after that. Right? And it's the same with plane crashes. I mean, it's the easiest way to cover up an assassination is to just have a plane crash. I mean, there's 200 people dead. I mean, you're not going to look at this guy in particular. It's just a tragedy. So you have to be careful, guys. And when we did research for this story last week as well, we looked at the actual radar. It's called flightradar.com, I think.
Yep.
It's a live site which shows you all the planes in the air in the world at any given time. And it's astonishing how many there are. So air travel is still the safest form of travel, I think, if you just go by statistics. And it's just amazing.
Whatever you do, don't be in an air crash in the Indonesia, Malaysia, Singapore area.
Yeah, thanks, dude.
Because they'll never find you, ever.
That is true, and if when you're boarding, when you're boarding, they say that your parachute isn't hand luggage, and you'll have to stow it in the bottom. Mm-hmm. Just stick your fingers politely up in the air at them. Yeah. And that's where I do most of my flying in this area, guys, right? Because that's what I have to do. It's my job.
It's totally safe, right?
It's completely safe.
I know. I'll drink a bottle of Penergan next time I'm going up in the air.
Yeah, look, but I always take a slightly fatalistic view that, when your number's up, it is. So not much you can do.
Okay. All right.
However, it's a bit morbid.
That's okay. But on another note, best segue on the planet, I'm going to go from tinfoil hats. No, that doesn't work. I'm going from mind control, last two shows, to our very special, esteemed guest.
Yes.
Is that right, Mackie?
Absolutely. And very lucky to have her. She agreed immediately, which I find extremely gratifying. Thank you very much. And of course, what we are doing, we want to I want to say we want to finish the cycle of mind control programming, but rather we want to have an insider's view here. And I think we've done some research. We've shared a lot of information with you guys over the last two shows. Again, as I said earlier, it is around subliminal messaging. That's where it starts, to some extent. Then it goes into actual mind control, where they break you down. And we see it in military, training initiations. Absolutely, the famous movies that we're all familiar with. Yeah, Full Metal Jacket and all that. Now, and then to more formal programs like MK Ultra, which is not a conspiracy theory.
No,
it is a fact. the documents that survived, 20,000 of them, have been released. Okay, they're not as heavily redacted as you might think. You can look at them yourself. There's the briefing is there, the mission statements, everything they wanted or could do. There's some accounting information as well, but only 20,000 survived. The vast majority was destroyed in the wake of Watergate. They got the jitters, understandable, I guess. But
that's an understatement.
Right? Now, make no mistake, though. I mean, just because something is said to be shut down doesn't mean it actually is shut down. And I think Solaris who is our esteemed guest, can shine some light on that for us as well. In fact, if you look at the treatment of the prisoners at Abu Ghraib, at Guantanamo Bay, and undisclosed locations all around the world, we know that torture does not give you anything that is actionable in the way of information. However, the methods that were used on these prisoners, unfortunate as they were, are in line with breaking down someone to be ready for mind control experiments, to become the Manchurian candidate, as it were. Okay, these are the same techniques that were used by MKUltra. Okay, the very same techniques that some say were pioneered by Joseph Mengele in Auschwitz, but I believe it probably goes back much further than that. But without further ado, so thank you very much, Solaris, for joining us here and for staying up. I can only imagine what time it is there for you.
Well, that's okay. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be on with both of you, and I love your show, as you know. So thanks for having me on.
Thank you, and we love yours. It's awesome that you're on before us. It's brilliant.
I like the fact that we go back to back. Yeah,
right.
That's cool.
Absolutely. Obviously we had Solaris on for Show 100, and we spent a couple of great hours with her. But here we want to focus in specifically, Solaris, on your take on mind control, which unfortunately for you, that's a very I guess personal experience as well. And also wanted to talk to you about the involvement of AIs, and I think taking out the human equation when it comes to controlling human minds as well, and having it, I guess, automated, right?
Exactly. Yeah, that's where we're heading. Well, that's what's already being deployed right now in the underground. So just however you want to address this, I can start now, or
please.
But I have a lot of data on it. Obviously, with John Storm, he's the first generation MKUltra. I'm obviously a very different generation. I'm more of the artificial intelligence interface generation. So what I went through is something that I think the major mainstream media is being prepared for, mainstream period, not just media. But I think eventually they're going to be deploying this stuff and communicating it more and more. But basically it deals with artificial intelligence interface with your neural circuitry, interfacing the brain, the neural circuitry, the four-body system, the vitals, everything gets interfaced onto the artificial intelligence. But before that gets done, you're interfaced with a live handler real time, which is what happened to me in 2004, where I was trained and programmed with pattern recognition and learned to really handle the communication system in general, especially as a spy bird in public and things like that, where he trained me. And then I was interfaced with AI. And the AI is where they do the mind control, because in between the spaces of while you're trying to think for yourself, there's an overlay. In other words, they'll try to label everything you're looking at, or they'll create sentences or finish sentences, or then they'll start something where it's an interrogation program and they'll continue on with a topic and do a looping so that you're stuck in that whole orbit. And literally what you have to do is kind of tell yourself, I'm not listening. If you engage it, you can interact with it, but it's still an artificial intelligence designed like a chess game.
Is the sophistication of this AI? How would you do you know it is an AI, or is it so sophisticated that it really fools you?
No, it's artificial intelligence, and I can tell because originally, before I started doing the research on it, I knew I was dealing with my handler live feed real time who announced himself. And then, I was interfaced with the artificial intelligence design work, which is based on an array system. And this particular artificial intelligence design is embedded in the underground, which means it's part of the what I call the black military program. It's not part of the regular mainstream CIA mind control program. This is something that's a little more exotic. So that's the technology I'm talking about. This is the technology that's being used in the Black Space program for remote piloting. Interface with artificial intelligence is very natural. I believe, David, I sent you a movie that I saw. It was just the other week.
Yes, that's right. You did.
That's exactly like, the monitoring chip and everything. The name escapes me, obviously, but that whole concept, literally we're talking about a technology that's actually already here. Thank you very much. Yeah, that's actually very, very close to the real deal in Black Space Underground.
Wow. Mekki and I last week, we we talked about a scientific improvement. It's talked about improvement or discovery, where they can put a skull cap on someone and like a beanie on another person somewhere, and they can, through a computer, make them, twitch a joystick left or right or whatever. And this is going through a computer and coming out the other end.
Right.
How much control did they have? Like, what? Because were you always aware that it was going on, or did someday, just one day, you went, "Oh, hang on, this not my thoughts. What's going on?"
Well, it was definitely a brain hack. I mean, what happened was they tagged me in my bedroom at night, actually. It was very kind of sexual in a weird way. Mm-hmm. But literally, they opened up the communication system, and I remember the night they did it. And it was just like patching in live feed real time. 1 second, I was like, it was kind of hard for me to understand what he was talking about. And then all of a sudden, he opened up the communication system, and we were in synthetic telepathy live feed real time, which was really him and I communicating. And I didn't need a headset. I mean, this was done through satellite-driven technology. I mean, very clear, very articulate. But I also think that my four-body system and my electromagnetic field was pretty amped up because of the spiritual work I've done, which made me a good candidate for the technology and the interface. Because when you're ramping up at a certain frequency and consciousness, you're able to be accessed easier. I mean, it has nothing to do with being psychically protected or not. I mean, if they want to target you, they're going to triangulate you. They're going to tag you, and they're going to start the interface.
So when it comes to this technology, right? Two questions, and please take your time in answering them. One is, what do we think, or what do you think, is the ultimate goal here? And obviously, there's things that we could add here. And secondly, did we develop this all on our own? I mean, you know where I'm going with that, right?
Yes, exactly. Well, the first part, obviously can be used for anything. You can use it for spy bird technology, Manchurian candidates. It's the ultimate for the secret government. I mean, this is the type of communication system that makes people get nervous because you don't need a headset, you don't need a radio or walkie-talkie. Mm-hmm. You're literally an interface, live feed, real time with not only your handler, your controllers, or your programmers, but also the artificial intelligence program, which I suspect has an override. In other words, if the handler's out of control, if the operators or the programmers are out of control, it can actually take over, which is kind of creepy in a weird way. The second part is when you talk about the artificial intelligence, I believe it's a hybridization of an off-world intelligence to begin with. I believe that what they've done is reverse engineered the technology in the underground. They perfected it very, very well. And now it has I don't want to say it has consciousness, but it has an alien hardware to it. And that alien hardware is almost like a 0-point transmission. It's more than a scalar wave. So when it interfaces onto us, and I will say this, we are 0 point. If we're looking for free energy, Tesla showed us that, but also we are 0 point at the cellular level, at the soul level, and at the consciousness level, we are 0 point. We reach that through consciousness.
No, I couldn't agree more. Absolutely. And people always say, well, how do we get out? I don't want to digress too much, but since you brought it up, people always ask, how do you get out of this? How do you do this? How do you do that? Well, the truth is you can actually, people have told us how to escape this prison, how to escape the machine, right? It's actually within you, and you can reach it through meditation. You can reach it through yoga. You can reach it through clean living, a combination of all these factors, right? And you have to become extremely spiritual, right? You have to actually unburden yourself. You have to lighten your load, both physically and spiritually. And people say, a rich man cannot enter heaven, or what they say is actually a camel will pass through the eye of a needle easier than a rich man entering heaven, which is true because a rich person will burden themselves with worldly possessions, material things, relationships, and worries that actually don't matter, right? We every day. One thing, then I'll ask you a question, Solaris. See, there are 3 jars, okay, and they're combined to form your life, okay. So let's imagine them. So you've got 3 things that you can put in those jars. You can put sand, rocks, or little pebbles, right? So the sand is all the stuff that doesn't matter, but you fill it up. Your 3 jars of life, then guess what? There's no space for the big rocks, that the really important things in your life, and the pebbles, which are the medium important things of life. Then you got the pebbles, and you fill it up with sand. And again, you can't put the important things in. So what you need to do is you need to restructure your life and put the big rocks in first. Worry about the things that actually matter, right? And then forget everything else. Now, having said that, though, this mind control technology is very sophisticated. I'm curious how broadly it could be applied. I mean, could we actually expand it to include everybody eventually? Or would everybody?
Absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah, actually, everyone we're all electrical beings. That's the bottom line. The body is electric. We're conductors of energy, transmitters, and receivers. You're walking around with an electromagnetic field contained in a vessel, which is your body. This technology can be deployed via black satellite technology globally, simultaneously, instantaneously. And if you think I'm kidding, I'm not. They haven't done it yet, but they can do it, and they certainly have the capabilities to do this with the AI. This is all part of the transhumanism as well. And also, a good point I wanted to make is that you are right. We are living stargates. And this is why we're not just bodies and flesh and, gray matter. We're actually consciousness in motion in a matrix and a stargate.
Mm-hmm. Look, yes. And it has become clear to both Dave and I over the last 40-odd years of our existence that is exactly what it is. I mean, we all came to this, I'm speaking for you now as well, Solaris, we all came to this from different angles, and nobody took us by the hand and said, oh, this is what it is, and this is how you can find out about the truth. In fact, most of the researchers and hosts on Revolution Radio and elsewhere have come to this from different angles. But most people that look at this and spend any time trying to understand what is going on come to the same conclusion. Philip K. Dick called it the Great Iron Prison. Okay, and other philosophers have called it Plato. Okay, we've got his cave analogy, right, where we only ever see the shadows. We never see the real life, right? We're not the first guys talking about this, right?
Yeah, they were warning us ahead of time in the illusion of.
Completely. Look at the religious texts. I know you might not be Christian or Muslim or whatever, it doesn't really matter.
Spiritual, yeah.
But read it. The kingdom of God is within all men and women. I'm paraphrasing here. That's right. The escape, the truth lies within us. Everything else, the fleshy here, the bones, that's your prison, if you will, right? Your actual consciousness, and even David Icke says it. We are infinite consciousness. I agree with him. Right, that's what we are, and that's what we hopefully get back to. I've got
a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Mickey and I, in our last two shows, we talked about all the different objectives that MK Ultra was trying to achieve. When you had a handler, and it wasn't AI, what do you feel that they were trying to do with you?
Dominate me, physically, sexually, remotely. Yeah, pretty much take me over and make decisions on my behalf, program me. There was a lot that was going on, with pattern recognition, numbers and codes, and serial numbers were really big. A lot of programming. And so much programming that I would tune it out to some degree because they were interfacing with music and other things that they were doing live feed real time, so that I was being distracted, but at the same time they were interfacing and downloading. I know a lot of different programs, and I still have those programs, but a lot of them have kind of dissipated. But I think for the most part it was about control and manipulation and training me the way he was trained, to be honest with you.
Okay. But to what extent? What do you think the goal was with you? Not with anyone else. What do you think their goal was? Was it just to train themselves, being able to train you?
I think it was mastering the synthetic telepathy, because we were doing really good. I was doing really well as a spy bird, and they were able to take me just about anywhere, and I would be able to interface and do a lot of different things that they were programming me to do. And at the time, I was so engulfed in the program and so traumatized, I was kind of following along and complying. But when they started getting more torturous, I started fighting back. I started pushing back, and of course that didn't come off very well, because then they'd start pushing me and start doing some things remotely that weren't very pleasant. So, but the whole concept behind it, I think, is just training to be a spy bird. I know they took advantage of the fact that I'm a second-degree black belt in martial arts, the fact that I have a Merkaba signal, which is very, very powerful. And I know a lot of people don't understand what Merkaba is, but as I've mentioned before, it's a light body level to a point where you get to Merkaba, which is a very powerful universal signature and frequency, and also has its own rhythm. Now, this thing was basically what they did is they took my Merkaba signal and interfaced it onto the artificial intelligence design, so that I still have this signal anomaly today. Excuse me, and this thing is pretty powerful. I mean, it's backed off for years now, but it's still there. It's measurable, and I walk around modified. The bottom line is I'm not the woman I was in 2004. I've been modified, and there's no way to reverse that right now.
Wow.
How-
Was there a wait? Was there a
Yeah.
two-way feedback? Were they able to see what you saw, or
Oh yeah,
did they have
absolutely. Yeah,
someone on the street? What? Tell me what was going on.
no, it was actually my handler and the members of the band, Live Feed Real Time, initiated it, and eventually, and they had access, and they could see and hear, and basically they were there as the monitors, and the programmers and the handlers, and then it was interfaced more to Michael J. Mosbach, who was my initial handler, and I mean, it was funny because there were things that I was doing that when he came out to visit me on Maui, he knew how to do because he was interfaced with me Live Feed Real Time. He would not have known how to do that if he had not been with me, and seen through my eyes.
All right.
Go ahead.
So you met your handler.
Absolutely. Twice.
Yeah. So how did you do that? I mean, if you're being monitored, if there's a live feed real time, how did you give him the message? How did you talk to him to say, come meet me at this
Well,
spot?
actually, he's the one that told me to go to a place. Him and Neil Peart actually said, go to a place of your choosing where we can get to you. And it was Maui. So I went to Maui. And I was basically going under the duress of the communication system, but I was hearing him live feed real time. And he announced Michael J. Mosbach. I had no idea who he was. I didn't even know this guy existed. And then when I went to Maui, I started getting a phone call from a guy named Michael. And I thought it was my nephew because my nephew's name is Michael. And he kept saying, Mike, it's Michael, call me back. But anyways, he actually did show up and we talked and he handed me his business card. And there's a long scenario with this. And we stayed in contact. He said, how can he help? But the whole time he was playing the game because he had someone with him who was part of a division that was actually, I guess, maybe his handler to some degree.
Overseeing the project, yeah.
Right. So literally, I mean, it was just one game after the next, but no real way of resolving the situation. I mean, and I think they wanted me to keep my mouth shut.
Yeah, you're still captive inside it, all right?
Yeah. I mean, literally, I was being completely run over and manipulated, programmed. I couldn't sleep. I think I mentioned that I couldn't sleep on Maui. They kept me up all night. Constantly kept me up. I had to sleep in my clothes and I had to have my bags packed by the door. I was constantly into that kind of military combat mode. There were times when I would see virtual space and I would literally see these guys come in fatigues and military personnel that look kind of like black ops, and they come in with gunfire and I feel it in my head. I mean, it was like I was participating in a virtual scene. I mean, this is the kind of stuff they put me through. And then I was communicating in telepathy, synthetic telepathy, with a live handler real time. This wasn't the AI. This was actually a real person. So very intimate and very strange.
The question I've got, one of the things that we were looking at when we were looking at the Inter MK Ultra was that their intent was to, all the people who were involved as handlers and doing a lot of the psychic work themselves, they all became recluses because they weren't then able to get around in real time themselves after the projects were cancelled because they were having trouble. Have you experienced anything weird since then?
It's funny because I'm always wired with the communication system. I just have I'm in control. That's the only difference. I mean, I'm wired as an AI, I guess you could call me. I don't know. Yeah. A hybridization of the program. But I'm very social too. I'm not like a hermit. I go up into the mountains and I retreat and I write. I do radio shows, but I'm also very social too. I can integrate with society. So I guess maybe that's what they like about me because I can do both. I don't have a problem working security. I've done a lot of different things on a professional level. And I'm good interacting with people, but there's the other side of me that's very remote. I've learned how to multitask, I guess is the word, because I've learned how to navigate with the program, calibrate the technology, work with the technology, and still function as a regular person.
Do you, I heard you talking about the Manchurian candidates, and I heard John Storm talking about, people being triggered by keywords or phrases or things that were unusual. Do you think that the CIA made super soldiers themselves?
I don't think it was the CIA that created the super soldiers. I think it was part of the military. But I do think the CIA has been way, way big time involved in mind control, period. And with that comes, Manchurian candidates and all sorts of other things. But, they're just devious as all hell. I mean, they've been, inducting people and doing some really strange things for a very long time with mind control. And now that they have, these fusion centers with all these other things that are going on with NSA and all these other divisions, I mean, it's just becoming kind of like many tentacles,
Well, I think it's crazy. There's a funny Onion sketch where they released a video it looked like Congress talking about Facebook, saying that we launched this program to just to collect data on people, and we can't believe that it was so successful, and people are volunteering, where they are, who they are, what they like, and what they're doing right now. They said, it's a very funny sketch, but do you know what underlies that is this whole MK Ultra thing, where that it's quite possible that they already know it all anyway. Like you said, the fusion centers, the collection of all this data and everything that's going on. Do you think it just runs in parallel to the MK Ultra project to classify and clarify that they're doing the right thing according to themselves?
Oh, I think so. I mean, they've been monitoring people for a very long time, as we all know. In the old times, they tap phones, of course, and they go in and break into your house and leave bugs and this and that, or they try to put a wire on somebody. Nowadays they don't have to do that. Everybody's wired naturally. All they have to do is brain hack an individual or a target. So I think they've been monitoring us for a very long time. I think they decide who's a candidate and who's not at some point in the continuum, and they target people and they pull them in for whatever division they want to train them in. I think that there's a lot of devious activity right now, which is why I address it, because I like the artificial intelligence. I like remote piloting. I like things with technology that are positive. It's the stuff that's detrimental. You heard John Storm talking about some really bad things and that make him very, very vicious as a person, and he's not. And the reason he's a byproduct of that is because of the program. So, I mean, they tried to push me too, David. I mean, they were pushing and pushing. They call it, there was a movie called Push. It was a sci-fi. I don't know if you guys have seen it. Long time ago, not a couple of years, I guess. I don't know how many years. But they're all psychics, and they're being pushed and driven to react a certain way. It's a kind of a mind control program to some degree, and that's what they do. They psychotronically drive, push to get a reaction, and that's part of mind control. They want you to become destructive, but I don't choose that path because of my martial arts, I think.
Oh, I remember that. No, actually, I know the movie you're talking about. I've seen it, yes. Now, there's a couple of other things as well I want to ask you, but first of all, do you get a certain, I guess, a feeling when you're under control? Like, is there like, I don't know, is it nausea or?
No, I'm wired electrically, so it's more of a. Well, in the old days, when they first tagged me with the communication system, they would start amping up my Merkaba signal, and it would be like a propulsion. A lot of the times they try to surge me out in areas, like sexually surge me to try to get me to respond to a certain thing, which really didn't work. It annoyed me. I mean, there were things that they were doing that was very much a violation. But the energetic associated with that it's more of a transmissional. Right now, it's just like the feed of artificial intelligence. There's no positive, there's no negative. It's a neutral transmission. But when the interrogation program kicks in, it's very negative. The dialogue's negative, and the response, if you respond and not the way they want you to respond, then they'll find ways to make you very miserable.
Oh.
Which is worse than waterboarding, by the way. Waterboarding, that's what cracks me up. Yeah, waterboarding's bad. Try putting them through psychotronic driving systems. And I'll tell you what, you can't escape your own body and you can't escape your mind. So I think this is the tactical hardware they're going to be using more and more, if they haven't already.
Have you ever met another person that's being driven?
I've met people that are Montauk boys. I've met people who have been programmed or hit with electronic harassment. A lot of those people, some, different kinds of people. I've never met anybody who has the same communication system I do because of the people that were involved with me. I think that's a different signature. And also the fact that I have a Merkaba that was tagged with the communication system, that's very unique as well. So, no, I haven't met anybody who has that signal. Not at all.
Wow.
So it's a unique case for you. Now, we've only got a few minutes left before the station break, but if you can stay with us, that'd be great.
Sure, if you want me, yeah, absolutely.
100%.
Yes,
I do have a question though, and hopefully we can get that in. Otherwise, we'll take it after the break. That's cool. Now, you've spoken about the signal or your signal that has been altered permanently, right? Something was done and that has permanently altered your, I guess, body's electrical system. Let's call it. Is that something? And I'm being presumptuous. I personally believe in reincarnation, right? Other people do not. But is this something that one would carry from life to life, that damage, or does it repair itself? Do you think?
I believe that the soul, the higher self, oversoul, superconscious, is already intact, and there's no problem with that in any form of design. What they've done is they've interfaced me onto the hardware. Now, when I transfer out, what my take is, and I've talked to other people who are involved in Montauk, I have a sense that they'd probably try to create some kind of a template of my signature and maybe even my essence, my spiritual essence, my soul essence, and try to replicate it or clone it onto another. I do get that. That's their version of transhumanism, and maybe another, something else they want to try to do with my signature. I don't know. But I do believe and have a real strong sense that the soul is very powerful and can certainly overcome, transhumanism or any type of interface.
Okay. They might try and find you next time around.
Yeah. Right. Well, the thing is, I'm an old soul. I mean, I know I've been around. I'm sure you guys are old souls too. And I mean, I'm very clear that I'm an old, I've been around. I mean, on and off world. And I think that's one of the appeals. I mean, I'm pretty sure that was so.
Absolutely. And I think this is a very interesting concept you just raised there, the old soul concept. And I've come across this over the decades in many different facets. I've been told different things as well. And the thing is that this kind of experience is not new. All right, I don't think this is a new experience that we are undergoing here. I think it's just something that's repeating itself after the other cycles of destruction.
Right.
They've this entity, this group, the elite. It's. I don't like to call it them because that's too it's too generic. But
I don't think they're smart enough.
Well, right, exactly right. Mm-hmm. But but ultimately, what could possibly be the goal? Okay, control, I get it, but to what end, right?
Well, but control over the soul's evolution, control over the mass collective, because it's basically consciousness they want to control, which is a connection to source.
Right.
And when they derail everybody, the matrix changes.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is something that we all need to be very, very aware of, very conscious of, right? Mm-hmm. Because if we hand over control, and I'm not sure how far away we are, right? Because I don't think that most people are at all aware, or if they are aware, they have now been poisoned enough and dumbified enough not to be able to put much of a fight. It's really a bit worrying, and shows like this, people like us are being ridiculed, by the people that are in charge, because they can ridicule us. It's a very dangerous situation. I mean, how do you overcome the negativity I'm sure that you experience when you tell your story?
I think I'm just calibrated for it because I was hit so hard with the band's fans for so long that I just kept, ascending out of it. And of course, people you can talk to the scientists and we all understand it. We all know it's true. So then you get more credibility when you start talking to people who actually know what's going on. So I really think that people are starting to create a balance between what's not valid and what is.
Wow. Look, and that's the thing. Now, the music should be
any second.
Starting any second. I don't want to get into more discussions just in case I can't complete it.
Yeah, that's why I finished really quick because I wasn't sure. I thought the music was going to kick in.
I know, I hear you, right? So let's assume it does. But the guys, while the music hasn't started yet, please do remember that this is listener-funded radio. What that means is that you decide if we stay on the air or not, right? It is your donation that keeps the station going. The money doesn't go to the hosts. I can attest to that. It is really just there. It is really just there to run the station. And then Hawk is doing such a great job keeping the service alive in the face of significant adversity, I might add, right? So if you have the funds and you're on the chat room, or would like to go to, and there's the music. It's on the left-hand side. Donate if you can. I'll see you after.
Radio at freedomslips.com, and we'll be right back after this message.
This is Thomas, a.k.a. a Mad Painter. I'd like you to join me Monday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Open Canvas. Don't forget to bring an open mind.
Yes, folks, that's right. Bring an open mind to an open canvas. Again, that is Monday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern. UFOs to government corruption. This is Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. You don't need to expect us. We're already here.
There is no denying the world is awakening. We see it in the global uprisings and demonstrations of the people around the planet and the new way of thinking and living that is arising naturally within each one of us and our communities. I have been a major player in this global shift and movement for over 20 years and have helped tens of thousands of people around the world change their lives and find their voice in order to help create the paradigm change we so desperately need. Join me here at Revolution Radio on the Just Bernard Show every Tuesday at noon Eastern Time for 2 hours of powerful interviews and discussion with some of the most influential visionaries of consciousness, alternative media, and suppressed knowledge. We promise to reveal the real matrix and empower your human experience.
Hello and welcome to Revolution Radio here at freedomslips.com, the number one listener-supported internet radio station in the world. So, want to ask you, do you have a favorite host or several here at Revolution Radio? Don't have the time to catch every show when it's live? Well, you can get all the shows of your favorite host for the year 2014 on one data DVD, so you can play on your preferred device at any time. The cost, just $30 plus shipping. Now, remember, I'm just one guy, so allow up to 2 weeks or 10 business days for delivery. Also, the hosts themselves get half of the net proceeds. So not only are you supporting Revolution Radio, you're supporting your favorite host as well. So just go to our homepage and click the banner that says your favorite show. It's just down. It's easy to find. Big old letters. Anyway, so thank you. Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, where information never sleeps. We are taking pre-orders for the 2014 and we'll start shipping after.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? I've just been handed an urgent news story, and I need all of you to stop what you're doing and listen.
On the go? Still want to listen? Don't have one of those fancy phones with too many buttons? Don't know what an app is? Or you don't even care? Well, we got you here at Revolution Radio. Now you can dial in 24/7 to listen to our shows. We have a number for Studio A and Studio B, and best of all, it's free. Don't forget, your carrier charges for your cell phone provider may apply, though, so check with your cell provider to make sure. So ready? Here you go. Get a pen. Here's the number. Studio A is 712-432-6958. And Studio B is 716-748-0112. Thank you very much for listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, the number one listener-supported radio station in the world. The opinions expressed on this radio station, its programs, and its website by the hosts, guests, and call-in listeners or chatters are solely the opinions of the original source who expressed them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of Revolution Radio and freedomslips.com, its staff, or affiliates. You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
Hello and welcome back to Dave and Mackie's Shiny Side Out, show number 149, 940 and 100. And we are talking about mind control and other subjects with our very special guest, Solaris. She's here with us. And let's get right back to it. After, I tell everybody once again, to please donate, guys. Please. If you can afford it, it helps. If you like, to listen to what we say. And you want us on the air. It's not to pay us, it's to keep the server alive. Okay, guys? So I think it's an important station. I think it's important information. I think you should know it. We're not always right, of course, but happy to be corrected. And good luck trying to do that to the mainstream media. Now.
But just on that, there are a couple of good things. There's seed packs for a value, donating over a certain value. There are USB drives. There's a whole bunch of things that you can get. So you don't just have to, throw money at the station. Pretty much, you can actually buy something, and the proceeds go toward the station as well. So you could buy our last year's show, and a little goes towards us. Most, it goes. No one's bought it yet, so please buy it. And maybe you want a seed pack, or maybe you want USB drive, or whatever those things are. Check them out on the website. on freedomslips.com. Go to freedomslips.com and push anything that will allow you to either donate or purchase something. All right?
Correct. Thank you, Dave.
The mind control is over.
Yeah, this is the benign form of mind control. Give.
Please.
I've got my mooching
it has
back.
a lot of begging.
You don't want to see him back. Now, but to get back to what we were discussing before the break, and since we have Solaris here, there's a question that Dave and I discussed earlier. In fact, Dave brought it up, and I was wondering, Solaris, if you would be good enough to let us know. So obviously you've been in the media spotlight for some time. You have had experiences yourself for some time. You've been on this station for some time now. But ever since you've, I guess, started researching for yourself and have met other people with similar or different experiences, and that have come onto your show here as well on Revolution Radio, what is it that you have learned or that might have been missing from your world picture, or what other influences do you think you've been exposed to here?
Well, the more I learn about what everybody else has been going through, the more I realize that my technology, the stuff that I've been interfaced with, is more black. It's different. It's a little more exotic than what they've been exposed to. And I think that's part of that has to do with my Merkaba signal. But as I've said before, I've talked to some of the developers when I was one of the presenters at the Super Soldier Summit. I talked to Robert Duncan. I talked to Dr. Hall. We compared notes. I mean, we sat at the bar and we communicated a lot of information. And I'm very clear that the technology, he was just starting to develop some of the technology, but what I have is very exotic. And I'm pretty clear that it comes from more of a black underground, big time.
Okay, so your experiences then, contrasting to those of maybe the majority of people out there, are specifically negative?
Well, I'd say a lot of people that are getting electronically harassed, it's always negative. It's never good. It's never productive. It destroys their lives and careers. Now, I went through a battery of different programs where some of it was positive, a lot of it was almost euphoric. There were a lot of programs deployed, a lot of control, a lot of manipulation, a lot of testing. They really wanted me tested with my martial arts. I mean, they were constantly mapping everything I was doing. So I went through different levels of the program. And the synthetic telepathy is really huge because it's one of the, I mean, my goodness, when you can master synthetic telepathy and communication systems with artificial intelligence and access, I mean, that's a big deal. So,
look up.
Say more. So it has its positives and negatives, but I think they use it for more interrogation. I believe that there are too many divisions that are misusing it right now, which is one of the reasons I came forward.
Well, look, and more power to you, because the thing is this: once you put yourself out in the limelight, right? It's not easy, is it?
No. Well, you get the trolls, and then you get the people who want to challenge. And I like, bring it on. If you want to challenge me, I can prove the technology. Mm-hmm. I can prove my what's in my body. I mean, and there's a paper trail associated with the ban, of course, and a lot of that's been covered up. But my lawyer and I both know the real story behind it all. So, you can't make people believe, but I have evidence. I have hard evidence. There's no doubt about it.
And this is the thing, right? Because this is America. We're speaking about the home of litigation. Mm-hmm. If somebody wanted to take you to court, and not just yourself, but other researchers as well, they could. Mm-hmm. They could, and because they could destroy your reputation, they could take you for every penny that you have, but people don't. Right? Mm-hmm. People don't necessarily do that, because the truth is that if you do let this go through the system, as independent as it may be, I'm not too sure, but the truth would come out. So that's why you don't see researchers in court that make outrageous claims, seemingly outrageous claims against people.
It's all bought and sold in the courts. And I will tell you, Mekki, I had a really strong arm in my pocket. I had a really hardcore NSA lawyer. He used to work for NSA, right. And he was a federal lawyer. And, at one point he told me we couldn't do anything anymore because it was too black and too deep. Wow. And he also told me that I would need a lot of money. He said he could get people to come out and testify about the technology, but it would have costed a lot of money to do so, and I did not have that. So, I mean, this is just between me, you, and the world right now. But literally, I mean, I know what's going on. He knows what's going on. And yeah, you go into the system and forget it. It's a done deal. It's not there for the person who's I don't want to say the victim, but the person who's been targeted or used as a lab rat.
Yeah, I think justice for all is a concept that went out the window a long time ago. I think what we see now is the system is there to perpetuate itself and to keep us ignorant. I think that's the biggest problem that we're having. Now, Dave just posted something here interesting.
Right.
Do you think that people, I mean, Kardashian watching, pop culture attracted, beer guzzling and fast food eating would have any hope in the world?
Not at all. And I hate to sound like that, but honestly, I think they're going after people who actually have high IQs for this type of technology. And I'm not saying this with any arrogance, but I think they're looking for unique beings. I would say that the majority of people who are being slept, I don't know what's going to happen to them, honestly. I really don't. But I don't think it's good.
They seem to be, I mean, the vast majority of people, and I've always felt like I'm studying the rest of humanity because I was always an outsider. I was always an outsider in Germany. I had a Turkish father, which put me right on the outer from the start. Later in life, I learned that my ancestors were part Jewish, and so maybe my entire family was an outsider. But I've never felt belonging. So I find it very difficult to grasp the mindset of people that follow sports fanatically and pop stars and the popular culture in general, and have no other interests beyond that. And because I can tell you right now, I have no idea about any of that stuff. You can ask me anything you want. To give me $1 million, I wouldn't be able to answer you. But so I always wondered, what do people think about that? I ask them, right? So what do you think about all day? What is it that keeps your mind occupied? Because I know what I'm thinking about.
Me?
Right?
Oh my gosh, my mind's overdrive 24/7. Are you kidding? I'm always spinning my wheels, but I'm usually spinning my wheels in the direction of universal energies. I'm really interested in mastering and understanding the technology I'm working with right now in my body. And I've been looking into more and more. The more I tap into the Black Space Program, the more insight comes and the more information I'm able to access. And to me, that's where I really am heading my consciousness. I'm looking into the next level of who we are as beings. I mean, we're taking this to the next level, and technology should be transcended, not abused and misused.
Oh, 100%. And this is what makes you unique.
I got a question. Mr. Cutter, Solaris, do you think with your experience in these projects that it's actually accelerated you as a person and your psychic abilities? Do you think you've had any gifts given to you, or has it expanded upon them?
It's boosted. I think it's boosted a little bit my energetic. Well, obviously with the synthetic telepathy, they patched in and they opened up a communication system. But I'm already naturally telepathic to begin with. But what they did was open up the communication system with their frequency. So literally, yeah, I think that's an enhancement. I think that's something that can be used not only for this world but other worlds. I've mentioned this before. It makes a fabulous astronaut. Obviously, it's a wonderful gift when it's used with wisdom. I don't believe they should be misusing this technology or nobody. I mean, if you can't get two people to get along in a communication system, then it has to be disconnected. That's all there is to it. It's like a phone call, right? So, I mean, it needs to be, respected, I guess is the word.
I'm hearing you. Do you think it's if the mainstream sci-fi people aren't aware of this, but they've watched Star Trek and seen the Borg and like the Borg mothership, if it's disabled, everyone sort of potters about aimlessly. They don't understand what they're supposed to do. It's a connecting tool. Do you think that at some point, and Mekki and I have discussed this, that we're hoping for Fibonacci sequence global tipping point of global awareness and consciousness? Do you think that it will beat the ability for them to turn on their switch of control of MK Ultra and make us into idiocracy with the dumbing down or whatever?
What do you mean by it?
Well,
the artificial intelligence?
Yeah. No. Do you think that there may be that if there was some kind of capability for all of us to connect into the global consciousness as a tipping point to defeat their intentions? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I believe that if people ascend to the right frequency, we can change the world overnight through consciousness and motion. But the problem is they're running interference between people accessing their higher self, oversoul, superconscious. I mean, there's a lot of interference being run right now. And part of this array system is a psychotronic driving system, which is designed to go after anybody who shows up on the radar. In other words, if I start generating too much in my electromagnetic field, which I know attracted them to begin with, they're going to hone in on it. This does happen. And I will tell you the reason we have these divisions that are, for the sake of the planet, we're going to be able to protect the American people against UFOs. Well, that's not true, because what they're trying to do is stop contactees from communicating with their celestial heritage. Mm-hmm. They don't want that. They want to be the middleman, because that's power, that's enlightenment, that's multidimensional mastery, that's avatar, and they're terrified of that. So what they're really afraid of is us ascending into that next level.
Yeah, I could not agree more. I think that's exactly what the research is showing us. It is this fear of us escaping. No, well, maybe escaping is too strong a word, but ascending, right? Into the next level of consciousness. They want to keep us here for whatever reason, purpose, or whatever. Maybe to feed on us. Who knows, right? I mean, it is certainly a sinister plan. And what Dave was referring to there is the awareness cascade that we've postulated throughout our shows, where we think that spontaneously, and again, we are way out on a limb here. This is entirely an intuitive leap, that we think that once we reach a certain number of people, we have a spontaneous reaction. We think that maybe we can trigger the collective unconscious, and maybe it's the Akashic record that becomes open. I have no idea, but I think it is possible that if we do reach a certain number of people, not control people, of course, that we can ascend spontaneously. It's in the Bible, and again, people are going to hate me for this. This is referred to as the rapture. Right, and this is again people talking about stuff they don't really fully understand. So, do you think it is possible for this spontaneous awareness cascade, as we inelegantly call it, to occur? And obviously, it is the elites. It's the elites' intention to disrupt it, as you said, as much as they can.
No, I do believe in ascension. I do believe that, people get it through osmosis. They get DNA activation through frequency and consciousness, and you all being on the radio is an osmosis effect. I mean, you're educating people whether they want to accept it or not. There's still data being released into the ethers that I do believe that does happen. And I even believe that with me being interfaced with the AI, I can change the game. I can change the whole dynamic just by being a powerful ascended being and not being controlled and into the negative aspects of what they could do with the misuse of technology. Maybe they'll learn something. Maybe the communication system can learn. I don't know what the effects are going to be of my interface with that technology, and I probably won't know for maybe 30, 40 years from now.
It's see, this is the thing. I think we're all very much we're very much at risk here. I look at my little daughter, and we've got a second one on the way now as well. And I'm thinking,
she's so cute. I've seen her.
Thank you. She's incredible. She's amazing. She's very switched on. She moves around like you wouldn't believe. And I'm hoping that there will be a world for her that is worth living in. Because look, right now we've chosen to make this hell. We really have. We've chosen to turn this into a horrible place to live. But I also believe that we have the choice to make this into something else entirely. Right? I mean, it's truly up to us. I mean, how do you effectively fight this, Solaris? What are your tools? I mean, how do you offer resistance?
Well, the funny thing is, I think it's knowledge is power, as we've talked about before, I'm sure, on many shows. But really educating yourself, understanding the technology, and also I've put my information in books and documentaries, which is empowering to everybody who wants to learn more. Insofar as deflecting the attack, I'm kind of interfaced, and I have this, I'm kind of, interconnected permanently, I would say, to some degree. I was kidding with you guys about, but I'm really not kidding about creating a helmet. I think at some point I am going to create some kind of something to wear on my crown to deflect some of this. If I don't like to be at somebody's beck and call unless I'm knowing what I'm dealing with, So that's something I'm looking at as well. I mean, technological upgrades and of my own, trying to do something to streamline whatever has been done to me.
I have to ask you, question. No, if you made a protective device, would you ever feel confident coming out from it?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't have a problem with that. I know what I need. I just have to create it. I don't know if I'm good enough at creating that sort of thing. But, yeah, I mean, it'd probably tick them off if I do. But,
So there'll be a knock at the door. It'll be a serviceman. Sure. The serviceman with his little toolbox going, "Look, I'm sorry, you just can't wear that thing." We have gone offline. I'm here from the cable company to hook you back up again.
I'm telling you. Well, you laugh, but I'm telling you, man, it's like everybody's going to be integrated at some point, I suspect. I really do.
Well, see, that's where we sort of, when we do laugh about this, we're not laughing because it's funny. We're laughing about it because there's a certain degree of fear involved in it. And if we can lighten it a little bit, because it's inevitable. It's at some point. clearly, I have to say, you mentioned with John Strom, John Storm. I keep saying this. But yeah, there we go. I got a visual memory, so I remember the way it's typed. The triggers. So when you're looking at awareness triggers and possibly triggers for an MK Ultra suggestion or a program that's been put in there, and one of those things that I stood at the entrance to a bookshop at a mall, frozen, looking at the cover of Whitley Strieber's book, Communion. I stood frozen in my own personal issue that I had with the cover, and I looked up only to be, I was with my mother, and I looked across to her, and tears were streaming down her face, looking frozen like a deer in headlights at this cover. And, I have to ask you, you were talking about triggers. Could that have been like a global trigger allowed through the system out there?
Well, it's highly possible, because it seems to me like I know Whitley made mention of this, that a lot of people were impacted by that cover. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe that Whitley described the extraterrestrials or the Greys a little bit differently, and they changed it at the last minute or something. I could be wrong, but I'll have to do more research on that. But I'm pretty sure. I just get the feeling, not that anybody hasn't been contacted. I believe that we are the generation of contacts. There's no doubt about it. And I believe that's one of the reasons we're having so much activity right now with off-world intelligence, and now they're prepping us for artificial intelligence. I mean, obviously, we're going to another level, whether people like it or not. We're going to go, and also the the iPads, iPhones. Everybody's already calibrated for technology. The next step is interface with the machines. Now, that can be dangerous water for a lot of people who aren't stable. I'll tell you right now. And people who don't really have their act together, and they're kind of in la-la land. But not to change the subject about where you've been, but I think that's very significant about that cover. And it seems to me like it was a mass trigger, just because so many people were activated. It triggered them into remembering an interaction they had with an off-world intelligence.
I know that Whitley said he received, like 50,000 letters or more from people who have had a similar experience.
Right.
And certainly that triggered something. Do you think that the kinds of triggers that, because since we're talking about MK Ultra and programming, do you think the kinds of triggers would be so obvious or distinct? They're usually distinct because you don't want them to be confused with something else.
Right. So, and those kind of, I agree with you. Those kind of triggers, though, they're more, to me, they're more an unveiling of something that's here in the subliminal energy of the mass collective. I mean, to me, that's very significant. Regular triggers, like for MK Ultra candidates or Manchurian candidates, it's more hostile. And like John was describing, a phone call, a frequency. Now they can do it through psychotronic feed, which means you don't have to hear a dialogue. You get hit with a transmission, and it'll react. The body will react in a very hostile manner. People will flip out. I mean, this is not science fiction. This is actually real technology. So there's a lot out there.
Wow. Because, we all remember there's a movie now, and I can't remember the name of the movie, and I hope that you do so I can write it down, where there's a sleeper somewhere, because there used to be sleepers in different countries, and the fear is that, someone will have been programmed as a sleeper, receive that phone call, and, that the person on the other end of the phone says nothing but, like, say, Rosebud, which was used in that film. He just hangs up the phone and goes and does the task he was programmed to do.
Is that the one with Matt Damon?
Oh, no, this was the black and white film.
Oh, it's an old one. Oh, my gosh, I can't remember.
It was like Hound of the Baskervilles or something earlier than that, around that era. But so they showed it you.
It was actually Citizen Kane. Citizen Kane.
Oh, there you go.
There you go. All right. Well done, Becky.
So
in that movie, clearly they showed the ability to being able to program someone and have it there. But to do it where you don't need a phone, where it's just through the air transmission like Wi-Fi or what have you, at the moment, I don't think there's very few points on the planet where there's no signal for your cell phone. And what's extraordinary is just imagine if it was that. If that's how simple it was. If that was their transmission capability, unless it's sort of in subspace and we don't know.
Well, there's definitely subliminal transmissions. I think subspace, I think you hit a point there. Yeah, subspace for sure. I think there's some things that are going on in the ethers and beyond that are definitely having an influence on the masses.
Because so where I'm going with this is that if it's maybe not cell phone tower technology, or everyone has local Wi-Fi now, or because they're turning off TV transmissions everywhere. Going, to digital from analog. I can only see that at some point, if maybe they've changed technology, they've upgraded. It's no longer done one way; it's now being done through another method.
Yeah, exactly. It's more through the 0 point, and of course, Tesla taught us this. He left us with the legacy of free energy, and they've weaponized that free energy.
Yeah.
So, but like I've said before, we are the conductors to the technology. We are the transmitters and receivers. So if you're receiving or transmitting, they could probably interface and piggyback off your electromagnetic field the same way they did with me.
Wow. It sounds like, it does sound like science fiction. I have to say that if not from me, but from the audience's perspective, you can only imagine that to be, if you're a Kardashian watching pop culture kind of person, and as Meki said, beer swilling, and I'm going to even say big screen watching. If you're into all of that collective goods, and you that's all you really do, you're glued, you're buried in Facebook, and that's all your whole life, and you know what? Anything outside that, it seems scary.
Right.
Yeah. You can only imagine that this would be quite a leap for them. Is there anything? So I have to ask, what have you learned from the other people you interviewed? I know Meki sort of touched on this a little bit before the break, but what other things that other people have told you in your radio host era that you've learned about this project that you didn't know?
Well, I think the one thing I learned, and this was more from some of the developers of the technology, but the heterodyning was really big because you can clone, personalities onto a target and, of course, create pseudo-schizophrenic brainwave patterns. I think that's really big. Because you'll have alters. You'll have all these different personalities where they can be integrated on, but they won't be the person's personality. They'll be manufactured, synthesized personalities, which, of course, creates multiple personality disorder in the illusion of. So that's really big. A lot of people are fighting with alters. I don't have alters. I have multidimensional design. I'm really grateful I don't have alters, but I'm very stubborn. And they couldn't brainwash me or try to break me into that pattern. So, I gave them hell. So I'm kind of individual on that level, but I have seen people who talk a lot about their alters and fighting the alters and things, like heard John talking about his martial arts background and how he was more weaponized with that. I haven't been weaponized with mine, but I'm very disciplined too. I keep my Zen control, and I don't let myself go. I'm actually, I shadow myself so much that I don't need a babysitter. I don't. So I watch myself.
Oh, I love that answer. The thing that when we were doing the research into Montauk and MK Ultra, one of the things that surprised me was that there is still so much alive documentation. Of course, redacted as it is, almost whole pages are black with the word "and" on it. But to see that there was budgets there, to see their objectives, to see everything that was going on, and through their paranoia, they tried to get rid of as much documentation as they could. You know that they're ultimately, on paper, what they were trying to do was find, the ultimate soldier and the way of being able to break that soldier, whether it was their own or someone else's. And through mind control and some of, the spraying LSD on other people and things like that, just to be able to go in, I think.
And with Montauk, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say with Montauk too, they were really opening up a lot of different portals. They were accessing gateways and opening up through consciousness, through certain devices that would actually enhance their consciousness. And then, of course, then you've got a different fabric beyond the space-time continuum. I mean, when you're dealing with Montauk in general. So there was a lot going on over there. And, of course, triggers and keywords and everything else. But I think their whole thing is about controlling and warping space and actually, in the illusion of time traveling and basically mastering the mind and consciousness. If you can get somebody to be there, I think Stuart Swerdlow said he was a booster for the person in the trip chair. Literally, that person is manifesting a reality and everybody is participating in the reality. It's an illusion. It's a false matrix. That's huge and that's very dangerous. So I don't know if I lost you there for a second, David. It looked like you went offline.
It's okay. I did, but the audience didn't. Okay, so
great.
What you said, trip chair. Now, one of the things that Mickey and I were, surprised to discover about the Montauk projects and the MK Ultra was their experiments in time travel, which were listed as being successful.
Right. Yeah.
I know.
It's just, but it's a benchmark of measure. Time is a benchmark of measure. So literally you can navigate, you can teeter. We are multidimensional travelers. I mean, we are time travelers in the illusion of. I mean, we travel all the time. So it's just a matter of mastering that and being lucid in your experience. But also you're dealing with timelines and time slips where there are imprints and fractals of what I call false database information. So I think it can get very sketchy when you start accessing other timelines myself.
Yeah, and this we're talking about the multiverse theory here as well, right? So, and I think that's why there aren't any issues with paradoxes, because and again, this is just my theory on this as well. As you do travel back in time, make changes or whatever, even forward, because we've now learned from some experiments there's no cause and effect apparently, and time is an illusion, of course. That you create new timelines, you create new I guess time streams, if you will. Some are pre-existing, of course. The question I have though is, and this is where it becomes maybe a little bit too spiritual for some of our folk here, but I have to ask it: if you are messing around with time, if all these time streams are created and some are existing, does that mean that we as individuals, as soul entities, have multiple, I guess, facets to ourselves or multiple expressions, or is it just the one?
No, we're multidimensional beings, which means we exist simultaneously here and at a multiversal level, which also connects to star systems and universes and multiverses. This is going to blow your mind. It won't blow yours, but soul extensions actually exist on other universes and star systems, or in other universes and star systems, and they are connected to us, and that's where we get our celestial reads and heritage. So literally, we are very expanded. And I mean, if we only knew who we were as multidimensional beings, and that's why I really want people to understand what they are. They're not just these bags of, within Star Trek, they said bags of water,
Yeah,
I remember that episode. We're more than that. For goodness sakes,
That's right, and again, we've mentioned we had a whole bunch of shows around dreams and deja vu and all these wonderful things that have to do with the mind as well. So again, in our theory here, the awareness cascade, we've postulated that during dream time, you actually are free. You're no longer suppressed. You no longer have the controls on you. There's no brick holding you down, if you will. But you can actually go and explore these I guess other facets of yourself or the multiverse. Right. And the funny thing is this: during a dream, everything makes sense, right? If you can recollect your dream, though, you go, "Oh, this doesn't make any sense at all." But while you're dreaming it, and if you happen to wake up and still remember the dream, you go, "While you were dreaming, it made perfect sense." Once you come back to our limited reality or our perception thereof, nothing makes sense, of course, because we are now again limited. Do you think it's some kind of valve mechanism that keeps us from exploding or imploding, to have the ability to dream?
No, I think it's just practice. I think people should meditate more and focus on what their intent is before they rest. But I will say one thing to you that might be disturbing. When you're interfaced with the artificial intelligence program or any kind of technology, you don't dream anymore. Like that. You get programs. I have not dreamed. I don't dream at all.
Really?
I've astral traveled. Yeah. And since my induction, I have had nothing but programs. And I'm getting to the point now where they're pretty much, it's quiet. But I used to just get nothing but programs and information. I mean, literally, it was like the Borg. My rest time was never really resting. I was just getting a feed nonstop.
How do you? I mean, this does sound horrendous. I didn't know this. How do you deal with it? I mean, what do you do?
Well, I never slept. I mean, I went through cycles of not being able to sleep, and excuse me, I rest and then I just eventually fall asleep. But I always get this interaction of the program. So yeah, it's disturbing because the soul doesn't really have rest time. And this is why I think it's a soul trap. It's a spirit trap. And there are certain things about the technology I believe are designed to capture, trap, control, manipulate spiritual design, and also control consciousness, where you're not able to set the intent. You're not able to manifest because something's trying to run interference or control and derail you in the process. I think this thing can be very dangerous, Mecky. I believe this technology can be a very unstoppable beast. And I don't want to see it go that way. But man has a real devious plan with this stuff. And I think his plan is to really keep people enslaved, to be honest.
Look, and this is unfortunate because we have got a very bad track record. I mean, you look at nuclear power or atomic energy, good things in theory, unless you put them into a bomb. Other things as well. You've got I guess vaccines or modern medicine, good things if if you don't abuse it. So the science will always allow you to. I guess it will allow you to go places, but you have to ask yourself, should we go there? Einstein said, hey, just because we can do something doesn't mean we should, right?
But I think it takes spiritual evolution. That's the problem. These guys are not ascending in consciousness. They want to weaponize everything. It's all about the battlefield. Yep. I understand war. I get it. I mean, I'm totally into protecting, whatever. But there has to be a balance here. And of course, it's from where I've seen and what I've seen, my heart and my spirit have mourned many, many years because of what's been done to me. It's just different now. That's all I can tell you.
No, I can't even begin to imagine it. To be honest with you, I mean that's a very strong statement. I find it incredible. But sorry, Dave, you also haven't dreamt for years.
No, I haven't. Well, pretty much my entire life, I don't normally dream except for the visions that I see of the future. So when I do dream and I do see it, I have to know what it is that I'm looking at because it's going to become important one day. And I think that that's one of those things, I mean, that connects me, outside of time. Because I too believe, like Mecky and yourself, I too don't really quite fit into the timeline. I don't really believe time is linear. I think it's more than that. And I think if you're in the time bubble, it is linear. But when you can sort of jump to the left or right or forward and back from it, and you can see time from a different perspective. So one of the things is, and maybe I'm a candidate. And one of the questions that I wanted to put to you is, you've mentioned all the things, your traits, which make you an ideal candidate for it. Is there something, if you had a warning for anyone, if you said, you know what, if you could tick these 5 boxes, maybe you too are already in the program.
Right.
What do you think they would be? Can you name 5
I would say a high intellect. They do look for people who are athletic to some degree. If you're a martial artist, you're skilled in some way. It depends on the spectrum of the person, advanced sciences, whatever it is. If they're brilliant in some way, that's an attraction, that's an appeal. Obviously, if they're outside, if they think outside the box, if these people are awake and expanded in consciousness and their energy field is expanded, that's an attraction. My Merkaba was attraction. My spiritual lifestyle was attraction to them. All of these things that they don't have, that they're attracted to, and mainly it's the vibratory rate and the speed of higher consciousness, which is what we relay. And obviously you guys do resonate on that frequency. Now, I'm pretty sure that people probably more than likely have implants, and I'm not talking regular generic implants of government. I'm pretty much convinced that we have, different kinds of implants, etheric implants from off-world races, and those work as stabilizers so that you can go really big with the spectrum. I will also say if you're a contactee and you come from a family or lineage of contactees, then yes, you will be looked at, tracked, and probably pulled into a MyLab, without a doubt. Yeah.
I got a lot of that stuff. I think I ticked all the boxes. One of the things completely, yeah. One of the things that frightens me is who's got, like as Homer says, got the finger on the button. Who's got the finger on the button of this? And right. We know that money runs the show. Money runs everything.
Right.
Money runs the governments. Money runs, the old banks and the family history, family lines, the lineage in the banking sectors, and where all the money lies is the people who are actually pushing and pulling levers. What do you think is going to be, if they're the ones, and as Becky said, he quoted Einstein and, the marvelous inventions that we've got. If the only thing that happens with every invention ever is the first thing that it does is become militarized, and as if this was, reverse engineered or discovered for the first time from humans, quite possibly the first adaptation of this is going to be militarized, and then the second would be socialized.
Right. Yeah, I agree with you on that one for sure. Yeah, we're going to different levels, and they've already mastered the weaponization of it. So yeah, socialization, integration, and then of course the breakaway society again, not just the one that's in the underground and the off-world, but another breakaway we're going to have with the transhumanism and what I call probably more ascended consciousness beings. But there will be some definite shifts. Now, I don't believe these people in the Illusion of Power are running the show at all. I think it's connected to the Fourth Reich that's running the show, and I say that because you look at Antarctica and you look at the Admiral Byrd, you look at what he was in conflict with. Those guys were freaking amazing. What they reverse engineered, the technology, the Foo Fighters. Look at the Foo Fighters. I mean, I can't go on. The more I know about the black technology, the more I'm like, holy crap. Honestly, I think they're running the show. I don't think it's anybody but the Black Space Program and the Fourth Reich, whatever you want to call them. I think they're the ones in control, not the people in the Illusion of Power and government at all.
Oh, no,
they're just shells.
Awesome. I agree with you 100%. The Bushes and the Abbotts in Australia here, puppets,
total puppets. They don't have the power. They just don't have it.
Yeah, completely irrelevant. In fact, the true power brokers are never seen. We do have something that ties in quite well now since we started speaking about this. This is from Gerber in the chat room. 2 questions. He was specifically interested whether or not you had mentioned astronauts and NASA with mind control, which we haven't yet. And a question for all 3 of us. Are any of us familiar with the Black Knight satellite? I have to say no, I am not.
I am.
Yay, because I'm not either.
Okay, so the Black Knight, let's take this one straight up. So the Black Knight satellite is an oddly shaped satellite that's in low Earth orbit that points directly down. It's got a sharpened tip on it, and it's strangely angular and bent. It was initially found in orbit by one of the STS crews, and from what I understand, correct me if I'm wrong, everyone, and it's unknown origin. There's photographs and everything on the net you should be able to find. And it doesn't appear to be a satellite that we've built. It's not round. It's sort of square and pyramid-ish like. It's quite unusual. But I was going to say, Solaris, I was watching a cartoon with my kids, and there was an old Looney Tunes cartoon, I think it was. It had Daffy Duck in it. And Daffy Duck runs into Bugs Bunny. Bugs Bunny runs into a penguin and decides what he's going to do is help it. I think it's Daffy or Bugs, I can't remember. Decide he's going to help it and take it home. So he's in New York at the time, and he goes to the docklands, and he jumps on the first ship. And guess what the ship was called?
Black Knight?
Admiral Byrd.
You did mention that. That's right.
Interesting.
So it's strange that they should pick up on that point, because where was that going? Antarctica. And he was going to put the penguin on the boat. And I think that there's something definite there. You mentioned Admiral Byrd, and Becky and I found documentation that was supportive of U-boats refueling and refooding down the South American coast. In around about the time that it would have been for them to populate Antarctica. And this is before high jump.
Oh, before high jump?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, sorry. The other question that Gerber asked was around mind-controlled astronauts, or how NASA might be involved in the general mind control programs.
Well, I think they're running screen memories for everybody, to be honest with you. I mean, take a look at mainstream NASA. Everybody knows that they never get the right information from them. We know that they've airbrushed data. That's very critical to, and just, they pretty much, they show you what they want you to see, and they'll tell you what you want, they want you to hear. I've also realized that they start to insert information onto pictures now. So not only are they airbrushing them out, but they're putting things on there that are not extraterrestrial, that are actually manufactured to create a disturbance where people are starting to get psychically attracted to an area and say, oh, look, it's an extraterrestrial, and it's a decoy. I'm telling you, don't pay attention to those. Yeah, so they're doing a lot of devious things right now, but they are not the ones who, they're the screen. They're like the big screen that runs all the programs and the distractions while the big picture is in full motion.
Mm-hmm. So the thing is this with the astronauts, and we mentioned this last show, the show before that. There was John Glenn, the senator, actually went, and this is going to sound crazy, he actually went on Frasier, right, the TV show back. It's quite popular. Who plays a psychiatrist, and he's on the show, and the Ross's Doyle is making a documentary, and John Glenn discloses. John Glenn talks about all the things they couldn't talk about. This is part of the show, right? And I don't know.
Wow.
Yeah, that's right. So if you get a chance, actually, you can find it on YouTube easily enough. It is actually John Glenn talking about all the things. He says, there are lots of things we couldn't talk about it, and I'm not really an unhanded guy. I always like to tell the truth. But, the things we saw and the beings we met and all these wonderful things. And so I know this is slightly off topic, but I mean, what other avenue do people have to disclose? I mean, if you don't want to move to Russia, it's
right. No, I agree. I feel bad for them. They have no choice but to keep their mouths shut. They really don't have a choice,
right.
And I understand that, and I respect that. And the only reason I communicate the misuse of technology is because they pulled me into this program. I mean, they recruited me into this program, and so. I didn't sign any contract.
No, exactly right. That's exactly right. But the thing is this, it's fascinating to me that people always say, where's the evidence? How come nobody ever speaks up? Are these people stupid? I'm sorry to be so blunt.
Yeah. It's out there to all of the debunking trolls.
I mean, good.
This
okay.
is Zemecki right now.
The thing is this, the evidence is there. The statements are there. We have chosen, I shouldn't say we, but people have chosen to ignore the whistleblowers, to discredit them, to make them look like fools and crazy people. But don't say there is no one ever speaks up. You say people say, "Oh, we can't keep a secret." I agree. You can't keep a secret forever. It's being told. That's why we're having this show right now. That's why we're talking to Solaris right now. We're talking about it.
And the universe keeps no secrets. When push comes to shove, our celestial heritage is an open book. However, history has been rewritten and erased, and of course we have to recapture who we are.
Yeah.
That's all.
Completely. But I'm just dismayed by I mean, the thing is this, because the sentence usually starts like this: clearly, or as everybody knows, or science has clearly shown that. I mean, these are all statements that mean absolutely nothing. Yes, show me the evidence and give me some good debunking here. But if you just give me just platitudes and statements of non-relevance, you really haven't helped me. And I'm happy to be proven wrong. And I'm sure Solaris and Dave and every other truther and broadcaster on the station, on all the other radio stations, on all the magazines, all the people that are working away in silence and have forgotten. I mean, Mike Rupert, God rest his soul, died a broken man. Right? He had this Out of the Wilderness website. He was an LA cop. He then worked for the FBI, and he exposed the drug running. I mean, this research is not a reward. It's not a reward-giving undertaking. It's not like we're all millionaires, right?
No, not at all. As a matter of fact, there was a time when I actually wished I had not said a word because I thought nobody appreciated the information and the truth. I went through that cycle of I should have just kept my mouth shut.
Yeah.
I
think we all go through that, right, Dave?
Yeah. I mean,
hello.
It's a thankless
that
job.
time's long gone.
And we're not trying to do anything. I mean, we're just trying to tell the truth and give everybody a heads up. That's all. I see the misuse of technology. I think it needs to be regulated or controlled. End of story.
I agree. I mean, we are living in the midst of technology that is fantastical. It is fairy tale technology, if you think about it, right? And we're using it for all the wrong things. And that's just the technology that we know about openly. I'm not even talking about the fantastic jump gates, the mind control, the interfaces with artificial intelligence. I'm not even talking about that. I'm talking about the regular everyday stuff: TVs, radios, right, computers, and all the things that we do wrong with them, right? I mean, imagine if everybody had access, Solaris, to the technology that you're discussing. And could just do with it as they wished. Well, it would be chaotic.
It is chaos in motion. You know, it's talk about having crap fall from the sky. I mean, everybody would be creating crap.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I understand why they picked a select few of people, probably, especially in the Black Space Program, to navigate and do the symbiotic communication, whatever. You have to have people who are professional, and that's why I don't want to see this stuff getting into the wrong hands with the psychotronics and the misuse. That has to end.
Look. I think it is probably already in the wrong hands, and in fact, let's hope the hands don't get any worse, as they well might, because I mean, I do sense a certain level of desperation in the actions that seem to be unfolding. I sense a certain urgency. Do you pick that up as well? That things are gaining momentum?
Right. Well, you know, Ascension teaches us, and you might call it the rapture, but Ascension teaches us that this planet is speeding up in frequency. This planet is ascending. The universe is everything is moving as a set. The planets, everything is ascending to the next level, which means all of this stuff in the linear world is going away. So I do suspect that this is their one way to capture immortality and to control and manipulate the mass collective because, you know, as I said, you know, once you activate to that avatar level, they can't control you. That you're completely enlightened and there's none, you know, the deception's over.
Yep.
It drops the veil.
And wouldn't that be amazing? And I just want to be around to say, "Told you so." That's all I want. Yeah. You know.
But you know who you're going to be telling the "I told you so" to?
All the left ones.
Yeah, that's all the drones that are still under control, right?
Left behind. What you tell us? Nothing
whatsoever, Mackie.
Yeah. No, look.
I keep thinking that myself. You know. That's what I keep thinking. I keep thinking that it's unlikely that we're ever going to get that "I told you so" moment, except for maybe milliseconds before they flick the switch. You know,
maybe.
And it's like the comic book store guy's personal confession to himself. And he said, "I wasted my life," right before the nuclear weapon goes off.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, but you know, I'll be honest with you. When you first came to me with this show, and I had always been speaking and used Solaris, I'm sure you had always been talking to people, and sometimes if we just entertainment. I don't know if you had that experience as well, but we were there to entertain with our different views and Mackie's got a new conspiracy theory, and then I get things like, "Oh, I love your detail." It's like, okay, and then you're thinking, okay, well, that's okay. If only one person has started thinking about some stuff, then that's cool. And now that we can reach so many people with this station, or well, maybe it's only 5 people listening, who knows, but I do think that more than that is listening, and I think it's a gift that we were given to I guess push people a little, right? Because this is not comfortable. It's a lot more comfortable to close your eyes, right?
Totally.
During World War II, my grandparents obviously were in Germany, and my grandfather was fighting on the Eastern Front. And it was a lot easier for people to just close their eyes. And we had the Gestapo in our house a number of times for various different reasons. And the fear that my grandmother told me that people had was just monumental. It was terrifying. It caught your breath, she said. You know, that these guys in the black coats. I mean, this is all designed, of course, to intimidate. And today it hasn't changed. Have you seen? I mean, you look at what the police looks like. You know, look at what they do. Look at how they come across. It's meant to intimidate and terrify us. But like you said, we have to sort of go beyond that, right? We have to become more spiritual in our approach.
We have to go to the next level, and part of that is redirecting the array system, I guess is the word. We've got to change this pattern of self-destruct, you know.
Completely. So, because we're getting to the end, believe it or not.
Yeah.
So I would like to know. I mean, this is the beginning of a new year. You know, it carries a lot of symbolism. It's certainly the first show, Dave. By the way, you didn't mention that in the new year.
Oh yes, hey, welcome to the new first
right
2015 show. Yeah,
that's right. Are there any thoughts, any advice, in fact, Solaris, that you can give people that find themselves in a situation like yours, where they are targeted or not believed? I mean, this happens a lot, I would imagine. I think a lot of people aren't strong enough to deal with it maybe as successfully as you have.
Yeah, I think they need to find a support group to some degree, or somebody who supports what they're doing and where they've been, and get in touch with people who have a similar experience. That would be helpful for them. And also stay spiritual. Focus on universal energies. Educate yourself in the sciences and the mysticism area, spirituality in general. I think that helps quite a bit, meditation and being connected to spirit, whatever you want to call the highest form of divination. I mean, really surrendering to the universe. That's where I give my power. I won't give it to mankind. I'll give it to the universe easily. So that's what I do, and that's what's kept me going. Trusting the universe.
That's strong words and excellent advice, I think. And your martial arts, I imagine, has taught you to live in the moment, to be aware. And a lot of people I find are not aware, right? They just drift through life, and life washes over them. But they're not really in the moment.
Not at all. And I will say I really hope people respect every moment, because that was taken away from me. Life, the way I knew it, was taken away from me, and you can't recapture that. So I'll say, love everybody, love your family, and really appreciate the moment.
Yeah, thank you. Dave, do you have anything to follow that?
Well, all I was going to say, never a wiser word. I mean, I feel connected to the universe, and so is Meki. Meki has at one point been lucky enough, like I have, to connect to the entire universe. And know everything for a second, and when you're disconnected, you don't know it anymore. And I have to say, I just hope that the people listening don't have their eyes to a blur. They're not fixed against the wall, and they're just saying, yes, master, and doing whatever they're being told. I do hope that people are able to think for themselves, that aren't in this program, and that don't become part of this program. And we'll catch you next week for a live 150 Meki and I in the same room. Could you imagine?
Yes, it's crazy.
Awesome.
Solaris, thank you so much for your time. I know it's crazy hours.
The opinions expressed on this radio station, its programs, and its website by the hosts, guests, and call-in listeners or chatters